Hey everyone, Mrs. Spatola here. We're going to start Unit 3, Lesson 2, Order of Operations, Day 1. But before we begin that, let's just take a look at last night's homework. You can pause the video. You should be checking off and correcting all of the problems. The first section was rewriting each expression using exponents. Okay, so you had to use exponents for this one. The next section was in expanded form, so stretching it out. Please notice that instead of using the multiplication sign, I did use these dots in between. Either way is acceptable, but please know in 6th grade and even 7th grade and going forward, that dot means to multiply. And then lastly, what we'll do is take a look at the bottom section, and you can check your final answers there. And notice on letter O, anytime you have an exponent with a base of 1, okay, your answer is always going to be 1. Hope you did well, and let's get ready to go with the lesson. Unit 3, Lesson 2, Order of Operations, Day 1. If we take a look at the info box over on the right side, we notice this thing called Pemdas. Maybe you remember this from elementary school. Pemdas, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. This is the order in which we perform the operations of mathematics. So how do you know which operation to perform first? And why is it important to follow directions and rules? Well, first of all, the order of operations is very, very important. In order to follow the order of operations, you have to do certain operations first. If you do not follow those directions and rules, the bottom line is, and you can write this down, you won't get the correct answer. That's why it's important. Let's look at our first example here. It says solve each problem. So take a minute, use your calculator, and see if you can follow the order of operations to see if they both have the same answer. Be careful, follow the rules. So what are these things that we call the order of operations? Well, in this particular case, in letter A, we have 2 plus 4 times 8. We solve the 4 times 8 first because multiplication comes before addition and subtraction. And then we find that 4 times 8 is 32. 32 plus 2 is 34. Notice we make almost like these little pizza slices. I don't know if you remember and you did it this way in elementary school, but that's pretty much what it looks like. Letter B, same thing. Now look here. Multiplication comes before the addition. You look at the operations. I know that multiplication comes before addition, so I'm going to multiply 4 times 8 and get 32 plus 2. My final answer is 34. So as I go down, it says, do they both have the same answer? The answer is yes. And how do you know which operation to perform first? Well, we follow this thing called the order of operations. The order of operations, write this down, order of operations tells us what order the operations come in. And when we solve, it's the order from left to right. We first find parentheses. If there's no parentheses, we go on to exponents. Then it's multiplication or division. Multiplication or division, and then addition and subtraction. One of the biggest mistakes that boys and girls make is they say, oh, it's PEMDAS, so multiplication has to come before division. That is not true, boys and girls, so be very, very aware. Multiplication and division are equal. It can be division, then multiplication. It's whichever comes first in the problem from left to right. Let's continue and go on and look at more of the order of operations. First of all, numerical expression. A numerical expression is made up of numbers and operation signs only. There is no equal sign in an expression. Also, here's a hint, when solving your answer, the whole problem will look like a slice of pizza, 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 when you are done. Here is that slice of pizza with the pepperoni on the top. Okay, so let's take a look again. Pemdas, parentheses, first, then exponents, multiplication or division. It's whichever one comes first from left to right in the problem. And then addition or subtraction, whichever comes first in the problem. Also, please be sure you rewrite the expression after each step and bring down everything you haven't used yet. So when we are solving problems for the order of operations, it's very, very important to, number one, yes, you can use your calculator, and number two, be nice and neat and organized. Let's take a look at this problem right here where it says evaluate. So we have 4 plus 8 times 6. So if we are to follow the order of operations, basically what I would do is use it as a checklist. Are there parentheses? No. Are there any exponents? No. Is there any multiplication or division? Yes. So I'm going to start with the multiplication first. I see there's 8 times 6. I like to make these little carrots, and that shows me I'm going to multiply 8 times 6 first. 8 times 6 is 48, and then bring down everything else, the 14 plus 48. Now you're left with one step, 14 plus 48. You solve that, you get 62. Put a circle around it, and you are done. Remember, when you see the word evaluate, that means to solve. And also, we talked about this in the last lesson. Here's a little review. Cubed means what? To the third power. To the third power. For example, if I have 4 to the third power, I would say 4 cubed. And squared means what? To the second power. To the second power. And an example of that would be, let's say, 5 to the second power, also known as 5 squared. Here is a really good breakdown of the rules for the order of operations. This is very helpful. So step 1 is always going to be your P. Parentheses, do what is in these first. If there are no parentheses, you move on to the E. The exponent. If there are no exponents, you skip the step. Always skip the steps where there is no particular operation for the letter that represents. Now, step number 3 is very, very important. MD, multiplication or division. You multiply or divide, whichever comes first in the problem from left to right. So if there is a division sign before the multiplication sign, you definitely have to divide first. And then lastly, step 4 is going to be addition or subtraction, whichever comes first in the problem from left to right. It's the same thing. We're going to be doing some practice, and I'll be able to explain it as we go along. Let's go down. It says evaluate, which means solve each expression. But before we do that, I don't know if you've ever seen this before. This is a bad picture of dear Aunt Sally, but please excuse my dear Aunt Sally is something that has been a phrase around for years and years to help you to remember the rules for the order of operations. Try number 1 on your own. 36 times 2 plus 6. Pause the video and try that following the order of operations. And if you did it correctly, your answer should be 68. Alrighty, let's do number 2 together. Number 2 looks like a little challenge problem here. And remember, your calculator should be out, and you can do these with your calculator. Okay, so first thing, parentheses, we write it. I like to sometimes even do this. Parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract. I make a little list. First thing I'm going to do is say, hey, are there any parentheses in this problem? Yes, there is. So I'm going to solve the parentheses first. So 8 plus 4, or 4 plus 8 is 12. And then I bring everything else down and I rewrite everything else nice and neat. You want to get it right? Rewrite everything step by step. Okay, parentheses is done for this one. Now I go through, are there any exponents? No. Is there any multiplication or division? Yes. I see division first. So now I'm going to solve the division. 25 divided by 12 is good, 2. And then I'm going to bring down my plus 2. My final answer is 4, and I am done. Okay, try number 4. Let's go down here. Let's try number 4 on your own. Now this one here has an exponent, so be careful. Couple of things going on first. I'll give you a hint. Solve for this one here. I would solve what's in the parentheses first. Pause the video, give it a try, and then I'll go through it step by step. So the first thing you want to do is solve. 3 plus 2 is 5. Now, remember, it's to the second power. So then I'm going to bring everything else down, and I wind up with 9 times 5 to the second power, or 5 squared minus 6. What is the next step? If you have to, you can always write out Pemdas on the side because that helps you to remember the steps. I did parentheses. Now I'm going to do the exponent. 5 to the second power is 5 times 5, which is 25. Now I have 9 times 25 minus 6. Right, I did that. Is there any multiplication or division? Yes, I see there's multiplication. 9 times 25 is 225, minus the 6 gets me an answer of, if I do this correctly, 219. Awesome. And there you go. Try number 6 on your own. Pause the video, try it, and then restart to check your answer. And the answer is 1. We start with the 3 times 3, then the 2 times 2, so then 9 times 4 divided by 36. In this case, the multiplication does come before the division, so we multiply first. And then lastly, we have 36 divided by 36. Now try numbers 3, 5, 7, and 8 on your own. Pause the video, try them on your own, and then check your answers. The answer to number 3 was 3. Now try number 5, pause the video. And there's your answer to number 5. Okay, ready for number 7? Number 7 has a couple of things going on, so be really careful. Pause the video and give it a shot. Alrighty, so for number 7, you should have gotten 6. Here's why. The first thing you want to do is follow the rules. Pemdas. Are there parentheses? No. Exponents? No. Multiplication or division? Yes, there's multiplication. So 3 times 5, which is 15. Now, be very careful. We are left with subtraction and we're left with addition. The subtraction comes first. This comes first because in the order of operations, it says parentheses, exponents, multiplication, or division, whichever comes first in the problem. Multiplication, it does not mean multiplication comes first. And then after that, lastly, it's addition or subtraction, whichever comes first in the problem. So when I look at number 7, I see that the subtraction comes before the addition. So in this case, I have to do the subtraction first. That's one of the biggest mistakes that kids make, boys and girls, so be very, very careful. Alrighty, take a look at number 8. Try that on your own. Go. Pause the video. Problem number 8 reads, which of the following gives you an answer of 30? Explain how you figured out the answer. Well, if I look at choice A, I notice that my answer is 44. I followed the order of operations for this. I start with what's in the parentheses here, and I got 12. And then I noticed that I had an exponent, so I solved that next. Finally, I have 4 times 12 minus 4. Next comes multiplication. 4 times 12 is 48 minus 4 gets me a final answer of 44. Let's take a look at choice B now. When I go over to choice B, I have parentheses. Yep, I have parentheses. 8 times 5, that gets me 40. And then I also notice I have an exponent here, 7 to the second power. Is it okay to do more than one thing on a line? Yes, something like this with exponents is natural, so that's okay. So we solve 49 minus 40 plus 21. I solved the subtraction first. Why do I solve the subtraction first? Good. You solve the subtraction first on letter B. You definitely subtract first because you want to make sure that you are following the order of operations. So you're going to subtract first. And my final answer is 30. And you can go ahead and write your explanation. How did you figure out the answer? I followed the order of operations and I found that choice B was the correct answer because when I followed the order of operations, my answer was 30. And there you go. The next page you'll finish up for homework and we'll check it in class. Have a great day, everyone.